What's going on, everyone? I'm the OPJellicent, and we are team building for GBA D-League Season number 4, Week number 2, up against the Phoenix Midnights coached by It's Turbo. Definitely a very good battle. I believe he made finals in the last season of the NPL Minors that just ended, and I believe he made finals in the Major Pokemon League, one of those seasons too. Those are the two accomplishments that I remember off the top of my head. I'm sure he has more, but definitely a very threatening opponent. As usual, you can see the 6 Pokemon that I'm bringing over at the top of your screen. You can see the 11 Pokemon that he has the potential to bring over on the right. We'll go through his 11 Pokemon, then we'll go through my 6 one by one and get my thoughts on the matchup. So let's go ahead and hop into his roster right here. He has the Kyurem Black, which is I kind of have mixed feelings about Kyurem Black coming, because while it can break my bulk, which is Registeel plus Florges, pretty well, it could run something like Steelium Z or Groundium Z. It's kind of outsped by a lot of my threats. Pyro outspeeds it, Virizion outspeeds it, so... And it's also weak to Stealth Rock, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just leaves Kyurem Black completely out, because a Choice Scarf set doesn't really have a ton of viability because of my bulk, and if he runs more of like a wall breaking set, then a lot of my offensive threats will outspeed it. So I definitely could see Kyurem Black just not coming, but if he brings the correct set, if he brings something like Substitute, it could definitely be kind of a problem, because I'll obviously have to switch out against that, and if he gets up a Substitute and fires off a Z move, that could definitely be a big problem. But we have prepped for Kyurem Black pretty well. I definitely did not take it like out of the picture. He also has the Jirachi, which I believe is one of his 2 or 3 Stealth Rockers, alongside Nidoking and Claydol, I believe. So I'm really either expecting a Spadef set with Sugar Berry to help check my Kyurem very well, or I'm expecting like a Scarf Heart Stamp Spat. I'm not expecting Scarf Ironhead just because it's kind of walled by defensive Manaphy and Registeel. So I really think Jirachi is going to be a Stealth Rocker, because it gets Stealth Rocks up on quite a lot. If he's earning like a Spadef set, he can get it up on something like my Kyurem pretty well. And if he's earning Sugar Berry, he could even get it up on Lando early if he really wants to prioritize Stealth Rocks based on what team I'm bringing. So that's kind of my thoughts on Jirachi right there. And then finally, rounding out his Fairy Dragon Steel core right here, he has the Tapu Bulu. Well, I guess Azumarill could be part of that core as well. But he also has the Tapu Bulu right here, which Scarf Tapu Bulu could be kind of annoying because it would outspeed my Manaphy, and Scarf Manaphy doesn't really have a great matchup. It also outspeeds Hoopa Unbound and does really well against that. And it could carry something like Superpower for my Pyro. So definitely a pretty interesting matchup with Tapu Bulu right there. It's kind of blown back by Mega Pinsir though, so he could try to bring like a bulky Tapu Bulu and prioritize the rocks. He could also bring something like Kobe Berry and just hit my Mega Pinsir with Rock Tomb. I think Chimpact did that in GBA Finals, so I definitely could see him trying to go that route. But it could also just be like Yachi Berry if he doesn't want to go Scarf Bulu specifically for my Manaphy. Now, next up he has the Nidoking. I'm kind of hoping he brings a Life Orb set, because I did speed creep my Manaphy to the Nidoking this week, so Scarf Nidoking would kind of take my speed creeping out of the picture, which would be pretty unfortunate, because after rocks, even with my lefties, if he's Modest Scarf, he will 2-hit KO me, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. But other than that, it could also be something like a Sash lead set with rocks if he really wants to prioritize his hazards, but if anything, I think he'll prioritize Webs, because Webs actually has a decent matchup too. He has the Azumarill, which Azumarill's kind of a toss-up. He can really bring any set he wants. The one set that I'm really hoping I don't see is Sap Sipper Belly Drum, because I might as well spoil it. I'm bringing Scarf Virizion, which can definitely do some work, but if he is Sap Sipper Belly Drum and I don't get the 50-50 correct, that could definitely be a problem. I'll probably just have to at least play that, but I'm hoping he either goes like the Choice Bandage route, or he goes like the the Huge Power Belly Drum route, and just anything but Sap Sipper Belly Drum would make me very happy. He also has the Persian Alolan, which is Alolan Persian, which definitely outspeeds my entire roster, but I'm actually not bringing a very weak to Alolan Persian team. I have a ton of special attackers. The only thing that could actually be very useful against is my physical Landorus Incarnate, which I plan to sack Landorus Incarnate early to prevent hazards on his side anyway, so I'm not too worried about Alolan Persian. He has the Emboar, which Emboar has an interesting matchup. Same kind of thing with Kyurem Black. It does really well against my defensive core of Registeel plus Florges, but against some of my more offensive threats, such as Manaphy, Mega Pinsir, Hoopa Unbound, Landorus Incarnate, Virizion, it's kind of blown back by all of that. So I don't think Emboar is going to come. It's kind of in the same boat as Kyurem Black, as it's not fast enough for the matchup, and a Choice Scarf set wouldn't really have much viability right here. I do have one secret tech on my team just for Emboar on one of my bulky mons, just because it could be a little bit of a problem switching into that thing. He has the Raichu, which Raichu would be kind of an annoying Pokemon because it would outspeed my Manaphy, and I'm bringing a pretty slow Manaphy this week, so I do have enough to take a Z T-Bolt on my Manaphy, so that's kind of it could be helpful, but I'm really hoping he doesn't bring Manaphy, because he could just Volt Switch around my team, after my Landorus Incarnate goes down, which I don't see Landorus Incarnate being around for very long because I'm bringing a Sash lead set, so Raichu could definitely be kind of annoying. Masquerain, I'm kind of hoping he does bring webs, because I have a specific Mon on my team, which is my Landorus Incarnate, which is designed to prevent webs and get rid of Masquerain in the same kind of few turns right there. So I'm hoping he brings Masquerain, and ideally if you can connect a few moves. Obviously the move that I am bringing to counter Masquerain does check accuracy, so that is definitely something to consider. And yeah, I'm hoping he brings the webs and we connect our attacks. And then finally, probably the biggest threat to my team right here, well not finally, but definitely the biggest threat to my team because it outspeeds everything, is the Mega Aerodactyl. It is weak to Stealth Rocks, and after Stealth Rocks damage, it does get 2-hit KO'd, well actually knocked out by stuff like Scarf Virizion and Scarf Kyurem, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. He might be forced to switch out in some of those scenarios. And then finally Claydol, which is kind of a bulky Rapid Spinner and Stealth Rock setter. Could definitely be useful against something like my Xurkitree if he's expecting Z Xurkitree, but Xurkitree isn't really breaking through something like Tapu Bulu, and I would have to predict around Nidoking anyway, so really not expecting Claydol to come, but he could definitely fit it in as some sort of niche on there. But yeah, those are the 11 Pokemon that he has the potential to bring, and let's go ahead and get into the 6 Pokemon that I am bringing to counter his 11 this week. Alright, up first here we have a Flameplate Pyroar, which is running enough speed to outspeed a max speed Jolly/timid Jirachi in case he does want to try to outspeed or speed tie with an offensive Manaphy. And he's really weak to fire plus normal spam. The only actual switch in that he has to that dual stab is the Mega Aerodactyl, and if we can get up rocks up early, which I definitely do plan on doing with a lead that I'm bringing this week, we can definitely pressure that thing. It'll probably be forced to roost, and we have a Pokemon that on our team that is specifically designed to take advantage of Mega Aerodactyl, so definitely a very nice matchup right here for Hamza or Pyroar. Taunt is on there just to kind of bail us out against a Belliedrum Azumarill. If he tries to use that as some sort of last resort late game, because since we are pretty weak to that set, not gonna lie, we can taunt that thing and just kind of get bailed out against that, which can definitely be very nice. But overall, I'm looking forward to this thing doing quite a bit of work. It is threatened by a few things. Scarf Kyurem Black, which I'm really not expecting, could definitely be a problem for it. The other Pokemon that outspeeds it with naturally, which is the Persian, actually doesn't do a ton of damage to us with its most useful stab attack, which is Foul Play, just because our attack stat is pretty low. So I definitely saw a ton of potential for Pyroar this week, and let's go ahead and move on to our Manaphy. Alright, next up here we have Seal, our defensive Manaphy. We have enough speed on here to make sure that we outspeed the Nidoking no matter what. There's no reason for him to go max speed Nidoking, but in case he randomly wants to run max speed, in case he's predicting me to speed creep one of his speed creeps with Nidoking, I decided to just go ahead and go with the 140 Timid Nature, because that'll guarantee I outspeed that. And the extra EVs weren't really going to help me out anyway. I still hit every barrier and defenses that I want to. The 76 HP plus the 252 and, well, sorry, 252 HP plus 76 in defense ensures that I guaranteed live 2 Stone Edges for Mega Aerodactyl after rocks. Now, granted, Stone Edge is a high critical hit ratio move, I believe, so that is definitely something that can be pretty risky, but hopefully we can avoid that. And I believe the special defense on here makes sure that after rocks with leftovers, we are not 2-hit KO'd by a modest Nidoking Sludge Wave. I did say I was really fearing Scarf Nidoking just because that's kind of one of the stops to this mon, the other thing being Scarf Bulu. He could try to run something like Yachi Berry Bulu, so I might not bring this thing in too early until I actually get the idea of what his team is. If he's bringing a Web Squad, I'm really not expecting a Scarfer, so we can try to play more offensively with this thing. So the another thing that could potentially be a problem for this is Assault Vest Kyurem Black with a lot of speed, just because it would 2-hit KO me with Fusion Bolt. We do live 1, even if he's max attack, but if he has Assault Vest, we're not even 2-hit KOing him with, well, we're not OHKOing him with +3 Dazzling Gleam, so that can definitely be kind of an issue with Kyurem Black right there. But overall, this thing is really great. It's my primary Mega Aerodactyl switch, and it can also take advantage of something like Ambor locked into Flare Blitz, in case he brings like a Banded set to break my bulk. And it can also switch into Claydol and take advantage of that very nicely. So hopefully defensive Manaphy can come through, and let's go ahead and move on to our Virizion. Alright, coming up next here we have our Choice Scarf Virizion, and the primary purpose of this thing is to have an actual decent check to Mega Aerodactyl. Since this is my only Choice Scarfer, and Mega Aerodactyl outspeeds the entirety of the rest of my team. So after it rocks, Stone Edge guarantees kills the Mega Aerodactyl, which is very nice. And if we do hit it with something else, such as like an Iron Head from my Registeel or a Stone Edge from my Landorus, we can even just click Leaf Blade or Close Combat against that. Now, the tricky thing about this set is, as I said, I'm really hoping he does not bring Sapsip or Belliedrum Azumarill. If I do lock into Leaf Blade and he goes out into Azu, I will click Leaf Blade and scout for the Sapsipper, because if he is huge power Belliedrum and he's bluffing the Sapsipper, that's even more of an issue. So I definitely think I can do that, because I can pressure Sapsipper Azumarill even if I give him the attack boost, because obviously his attack will be maxed. But if he is huge power Azumarill and he gets a belly drum up, that's just going to be a complete whole nother issue. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. We have hidden power poison on there just as clutch for Tapu Bulu, in case I'm really expecting that to switch in, since it does take my dual stab quite nicely. And that can really help weaken that for something like my Manaphy, especially if he's Yachi Berry, because I do want to be able to keep Oko that with +3 Ice Beam. So hidden power poison can be pretty cool tech, and that's why we have a minus defense nature on there instead of a minus speed F nature. No special attack, because we do 2-hit KO any non-assault vest set no matter what, especially with the rocks. So grassy terrain shouldn't really matter in that regard. Let's go ahead and move on to one of our more instrumental Pokemon this week, which is our Landorus Incarnate. Alright, coming up next here we have our Focus Sash Landorus Incarnate, which this is most likely going to be my lead, just because it guarantees prevent webs from his side of the field. The way it will work is, I Stone Edge turn 1, if he Scarf Mask Rain and gets up webs, I just spam Defog and he'll be eventually forced to switch out. And the idea is I just Stone Edge and knock that thing out. If he has Focus Sash, I just click Stone Edge, and then we still have our Focus Sash intact to be able to defog on whatever comes out next. So that's definitely very nice. And in the scenario where he brings me down to my Sash, and I'm actually, he brings in a Pokemon that's actually slower than me, I can even get up a Rocks, which is definitely very nice. It'll definitely be helpful to pressure that Mega Aerodactyl, which can definitely help out my Virizion killing that, as well as my Pyroar, which I'm definitely hoping can do a ton of work. And other than that, Earthquake is just a nice stab. Can pressure Jirachi, which is one of the Pokemon that's stopping my biggest win condition, which is Kyurem, as you guys will see later. And Stone Edge can be so useful against some other mounts, such as the Mega Aerodactyl, if I'm predicting that to switch in. It hits the Kyurem Black and does 2-hit KO after rocks, which is definitely very nice. And overall, I'm not expecting Lando to be around. If I do see something like a Volt Switch user, such as the, what had Volt Switch on his team? The Raichu, I can definitely try to switch this out at 1 health and try to deter him from clicking Volt Switch, because that can get kind of annoying. So if we do see Raichu, I might switch this out on 1 health and try to either use it as sack fodder or prevent him from Volt Switching. So all things to consider right there. But let's go ahead and move on to our Registeel. Alright, coming up next here we have our Registeel, and it's running a Choppleberry set with Stealth Rocks, Counter Iron Head, and Earthquake. The Choppleberry is primarily there to help me take something like a superpower from Azumarill. We can hit that thing with a counter and just knock that thing out. Same thing with Embor, and it can also help us take a Z Focus Blast from the Kyurem Black, in case that's certainly what he brings, because we can take a Z Earth Power naturally, but we don't take a Z Focus Blast, so that's definitely very nice. Since if I don't end up getting rocks, I do want to prioritize getting up rocks with this thing, but this is my primary response to something like a Banded Azumarill. With our max HP and 100 defense, we definitely live 2 waterfalls, and with the Choppleberry, we live the superpowers, because even though he'll hit me pretty hard with the first one, we eat the Choppleberry, and then he'll be at -1 attack, and that'll be a pretty good scenario right there. But this is pretty much a backup Stealth Rocker in case I don't have the opportunity to get up rocks with my Landorus. And that's kind of the idea of this thing. It's primarily my Kyurem Black switch in 2, and it can also help me out against Jirachi Iron Head spam, because that is something that can get quite annoying. So yeah, definitely things to consider right there. Earthquake guaranteed breaks a Jirachi substitute. That's definitely something, because if he does bring a Subcom mindset, I definitely want to make sure I'm prepared for that. And I definitely wanted to have a way to hit Jirachi and weaken that thing, because it is one of the things that's stopping my Kyurem. And if he does bring something like a Recovery Jirachi, that can actually 1v1 me, because it can just run something like Wish Protect, and I'll probably be forced to switch out. We do have great checks and counters to the Jirachi. Manaphy can take it on relatively well, and Pyro checks that thing pretty nicely too. So if he is something like Recovery Jirachi, we do have options, and that's kind of the whole idea with Registeel right here. Switch it into Kyurem Black when we need it to. Can also catch something like Superpower Tapu Bulu, and let's go ahead and move on to our win condition, which I'm really excited to see if this set can do the thing this week. Alright, last and most right here, we have our Kyurem, which is running a Salac Berry substitute set, and we have an even HP stat on there just to make sure that if we click substitute 3 times, we do chew up our Salac Berry, because it is 25% and lower. It is not lower than 25% to eat that thing. So if we are at 50 health after 3 substitutes, we will eat that berry, and that's kind of the idea of this. Now the biggest stops to this thing are obviously something like Choice Scarf Jirachi can pressure me with Iron Head. Choice Scarf Persian, which is I believe the other Pokemon that outspeeds this thing, can definitely be pretty annoying too, but I really am not expecting Persian to come. And Scarf Jirachi would probably not be a very good bring either, because of the rest of my team composition. It doesn't really match up very well, so I'm really hoping this thing can come through. All I need is damage on Jirachi and potential Assault Vest Azumarill, and this thing can just come through late game. We have coverage for I believe his entire team. Dragon Pulse hits the Kyurem Black. Ice Beam hits like a ton of his team, Mega Aerodactyl, Claydol, and Nidoking and Earth Powers there just specifically to Jirachi. Hopefully he's not Shuka Berry, so that way I can hit that thing harder. And yeah, this is my primary win con. I'm definitely going to try to preserve health on this thing. Even if I can try to bring it in early and try to get off a kill with it in case he's like doesn't have a Rocks up and I'm willing to take the damage. But even Rocks are not too much of an issue because I do plan on getting below 25% at some point in the match. And Rocks will put me at 20. It'll take off exactly 25%, so the substitute strategy still will work out in that case. So really hoping this thing can come through. The idea is get into a position where I'm behind a substitute and have my speed boost, and this thing basically wins the game because I click Earth Power twice against the Jirachi and knock that thing out. And yeah, that is going to be the team for this week. So let me know what you guys think. Would you have brought anything different? What do you think about the matchup? Do you think we're going to win? Also, be sure to go ahead and check out Turbo and what team prep he is bringing this week. I'm sure he has some heat sets, and I'm curious to see what exactly that is. But yeah, match will be up tomorrow at noon. GBA Teambuilder will be up tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the match that's going up on Monday for that. And yeah, I will see you guys then. Later.